What's going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today we're going to talk to you about Polestar. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what's been really moving the price as of late, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that said, let's get right to it. Currently, it is down 4.76%. 2.4 million shares have been traded. 2.8 is the average. A lot of the volume being done today is just swing traders and algorithmic trading, and you can kind of tell that based off of this right here. So institutions just aren't really getting into Polestar. Most likely they're going to be waiting up until their Q1 production and delivery numbers, which based on this time last year, they did submit it May the 11th, as you can kind of see right down here. So again, that could be a good benchmark to use for this time around, but ultimately Polestar can submit it whenever the hell they want. So we'll just have to wait and see when they do submit that. But I feel like there is a lot of people very optimistic about these numbers, but I could be wrong. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Aside from basically no news, there's been a lot of unofficial updates such as the Polestar 4 as well as the Polestar 5. So I think there's a lot of optimism associated to just the operations behind the scenes. So I think Polestar's definitely making some pretty big moves, and the Polestar 5 looks really kick-ass. So I don't know if you guys have seen this video or not, but I think definitely Polestar is going to be shaking some, or kicking some ass ultimately in 2024. That's just my own interpretation, of course. And aside from that, one thing that has been causing a lot of volatility in Polestar is this right here. So Volvo Cars to propose a distribution of 62.7% of its Polestar shareholdings to its shareholders. So no doubtably through that, 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗡𝗖𝗧 would increase their position. So I think the market generally like that. And plus it would add a lot of liquidity to the broader market, which overall is fairly good. And from my interpretation of this, it does look like the 4th, so April the 4th or possibly the 5th, this is where the conversion was going to be completed. So when it comes to Polestar's stock price, this is why it was a little bit more advantageous to keep it down. I'm definitely not saying 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗖𝗧 or Volvo or someone else was trying to artificially keep Polestar down, but it was very advantageous, I guess, for Polestar and Volvo shareholders for the price to be low. So again, I think this is why it did really pop on the 8th as well as the 9th, because technically that was completed. So I think overall, at least again, that's my interpretation of this. Let me know your thoughts on that whole thing, but I think overall that is a good thing for Polestar, especially based on the liquidity aspect. So no doubtably going forward, you should see a lot more volume getting in and out of Polestar. So again, that's in my opinion a good thing. A lot of people were very excited about the last several days, just obviously it going up. Even today it did have a very nice spike up first thing to roughly $1.78, and then it started to trend down. This kind of whole movement right here has to do more so with the technicals rather than anything, but a lot of people are screaming for a squeeze play, that Polestar is going to undergo a squeeze, and I beg to differ. So I wanted to just give you a quick overview of that. Right now, shorts are increasing 41.12 thousand shares. 10.26% of the free float is being shorted. 25.3 million shares overall are being shorted. And then utilization is 99.32%. Oh, and then as well, cost of borrow average is 141.84. So in theory, as I've said in the past, Polestar is a squeeze play just based on the fundamentals. So if you hit the Polestar name and just looked at this, then yes, it is a squeeze play, but you need a surprise catalyst. And when it comes down to it, Polestar hasn't really put out any substantial news to really justify for shorts to close out their positions. Maybe during their Q1 earnings, that might be the deciding factor, but as it stands with the whole Volvo kind of thing and just unofficial news associated to operations, I don't see those as justified reasons, in my opinion. My apologies, don't mean to burst your guys' bubble on that. Just to give you a quick overview of some other updates. So with their Q1 numbers now locked and loaded, I have been monitoring to see if analysts have been making any changes, and so far nothing. So still 3 analysts have given estimates with a consensus of negative 15 cents, and that's for the earnings per share. And then for revenue, roughly about 4 estimates with a consensus of 759.26 6 million. So that has gone down a little bit. So one analyst did recently get on board, and clearly they were very, very bearish. No recent analyst ratings, as you can kind of see. So last one was done 21 days ago. Sell rating $1.15. Bernstein and Daniel, who has a 59% success rating. So all in all, not necessarily the best. Let me know your thoughts on this. If you are looking for a lot of good compiled information, such as analyst forecast ratings, even latest Morningstar reports, take a look at Interactive Brokers for all of this information to be completely free. So take advantage of this while you can. But as you can kind of see, the latest Morningstar report, which did come out, I believe, mid last week, does show the fair market value for Polestar being $2.36. So I think that's maybe a positive thing. You guys do your own due diligence at the end of the day, ultimately. But moving on, looking at options, $10,000 in calls being purchased versus 55 in puts. Sentiment wise, 68% of all the options being done today are bearish. So that's not the best. Ultimately, it does look like a lot of calls were essentially sold at the $2.50 strike price, so that overall is very bearish. Of the call options that are being purchased, it looks like there's a consensus for it to be above $2, but dollar value obviously isn't really getting into Polestar. There's not much, and plus they only has monthly options, not weekly, so I think just people aren't really looking at Polestar, and I've said that in the past, which is unfortunate, because even if you do look at the multiples, so the current PS ratio is 1.3 and the future is 0.9, so very, very similar to NIO. NIO, on the other hand, is running like crazy today. Polestar is just lagging and it is pulling down. So I think that has to do more so with the technicals, like I said, but still, Polestar is a screaming buying opportunity if you do believe in it bigger picture, but you have to be able to weather the storm because this is a crazy, crazy stock. But regardless, with it at $1.60, it is trading between this S1 and the pivot. So ultimately, $1.47 is going to be that next strong support. Vice versa, $1.71 will be the next strong resistance. So just watch for both of those to either hold or potentially break above that into $1.96. And this in turn is exactly why it did trend down. Yesterday it did have a high of, I think, $1.68. Today it did have a high of $1.78. But regardless, nothing really of substance to keep it within this pivot to this R1. So this is why it did trend back into this range. As far as on the actual chart itself, so it is right now kind of pulling back into the higher percentile of the Bollinger Band. And as I've said in the past, unless there's some justified reason for a stock to be outside the Bollinger Band, it usually causes a kind of a pullback, as you can kind of see right here, or vice versa happens if it kind of pulls in the lower aspect. So in reality, that might be more of a consolidation over the next couple of days, as you do see what typically happens with Polestar, and plus it is bouncing off of that 50-day moving average, like I kind of pointed out on that very strong resistance level. So right now, and I guess some to do with yesterday, it's the technicals. Technicals are pulling Polestar back, and no other rhyme or reason. Of course, CPI is coming out tomorrow, and a lot of other data points for the rest of the week, so there will be no doubtably a lot of volatility. Looking at the stochastic though, you do see it at 42, so it is considered somewhat neutral, but you do see a nice deviation, so white line above the red showing a bullish underlying sentiment for that. Number of retail investors have been getting out. Maybe they just wanted to take profits, or maybe there was no squeeze, so they kind of got out. I'm not really sure. So if you are one of those individuals that did sell Polestar, let me know, and potentially why. So don't forget to hit that thumbs up. One final thing, make sure you guys take advantage of this promo as I've shared with you. Simply sign up for a new account with Moomoo, throw $100 at it, and they do give you 7 fractional shares of the Meg 7. So a $35 total value, pretty good return on investment for throwing $100 at the account. So make sure you guys take advantage of this, link in the description below and also the comment. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.